must be in total alignment with the purpose for which this life was created, to expand the being. You have to be in alignment with that, otherwise you're fighting yourself. The being is like a tree that is expanding. It's chosen its direction and path of expansion. And then within that experience, it forgets about the whole tree. It still is the whole tree, but it's forgotten. But it still has the same direction it wants to go. In forgetting, you give yourself the possibility of changing or making that a more challenging thing to maintain and remember. But to align with that simply by will is the point. That's the starting point. When you wake up in the morning, it's like, my will is to expand my being for the purposes for which I have created this life in the first place. Some version of it, of that. Like, today I align with my purpose for my being. I align with the purpose this life was created. There's no fight when you just embrace the experiences you're having and purposefully and intentionally align with the original intention for the life. Because when you're fully self-aware, that's what you choose. It's not someone else choosing it. It's aware you. You're in an unaware state, or less aware state, less self-aware state. And then you start making decisions, but you want to make sure that you're making decisions that are aligned with the self-aware self. When you have all the information, when you know the tree that is expanding and the direction it's expanding and why it's expanding in that direction, and you align with it. Because you know that's just naturally what you do when you're self-aware. Until you're self-aware, your will, your conscious will has to be aligned to that ultimate truth. To align with the version of you that is fully self-aware and expanding on purpose in a direction of experience. Align with that. There's no fight. And you improve your chances of becoming self-aware because there's no divergence in the frequencies you're emitting versus the frequencies that you are. So you can just kind of infuse that life with more self-awareness because there's the same exact direction. See that? Because the train is on the tracks. It's not trying to build its own way. And since it's on the tracks, more information can flood it to that train. There's less friction or less two wills in a sense. You know, you're willing for this, but your being is willing for that. There's none of that going on. So you literally become the perfect vessel to become fully self-aware, because your core intention, the intention that never changes, is that your life align with the original intention of the fully self-aware being. That's your first decision. That's something that you never change. And that's because that's the version of you that gets the most awareness. It is on the tracks. It is going where the being wants to go, to expand. In the meantime, it's like a shaky train, so it can't really pick up as much speed. It's because it's internal tension, and that tension comes from the perception of self as being something other than it is. So you end up with agendas that are attempting to pull you off the tracks. But you know where you want to go, so you end up going there anyway, but it's just like this shakiness and slowness to the track. It's like less pleasant than it would have been, and way slower. See? And that only happens because there's a difference in the will direction of the conscious being versus, or the self-aware being, as James, so to speak, versus the being who knows itself eternally beyond James. Same being, but in order for them to be consciously the same being from all points of view, the first thing that has to align is the will. The apparent separation of consciousness that has become the character James who's only aware of his life, has to align his will with the rest of its actual being through intention. You visualize the tree and you visualize the train on the track is at the end of one of the branches. The train is the character. The tree is the being. You want it to align perfectly, which means you have to have that intention that you're not gonna resist the choice of expansion that the being has chosen for its own core driving force to have experiences, period, which is to expand itself. That is when you have all the information you need to make those decisions, because you are consciously aware of yourself as that self that is expanding. There can be no divergence of will when you have that awareness, but in order to have that awareness, you have to have that will. Just with a simple awareness that is the actual truth, that the being is that tree, without even being aware of the fullness of that tree, your will should be to be right there, aligned, so that information can flood through. Because wherever your true being wants to go, you go. See? No resistance, no alternate agendas. You might be off sometimes, but your will doesn't change. It is to be in alignment with your actual being's intent of expansion. Because it is the wisest, most fully informed self. So your will is for that.